Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Soccer Showdown. Joe Archino here, as always, with Martino Puccio. And we are arriving at an international break, but that does not mean that we have nothing to present you with. There is so much happening right now. We start things off with the UEFA Champions League as we advance to the quarterfinals. 4 massive matchups. We're going to give you all the stats and all the information that you need, and we will most likely pick every winner. I think we'll start off with Martino, of course, Juve-Barcelona, a rematch of the Champions League final from just 2 seasons ago. So I'll ask you, this is a very difficult one. Obviously, Juve has been very good in this competition to this point. They spend so much money in the offseason. The expectation is to win this competition this season. Barcelona has scored more goals than anyone at this point of the Champions League so far this season. So let me ask you, does Juve's defensive style give them any hope against Barcelona's trident attack?
I think it does because, you looked at the game, the 2 legs with PSG and Barcelona and how PSG shut them out 4-0, but it took a miraculous comeback in order to do that. They're more than likely to shut out Barcelona at home, Juve is. So if you look at it that way, I don't see how Juve would give up that many goals in an away leg. This is best defense versus best offense. Something's got to give. We see this all the time happening in sports. More often than not, the defense usually wins, and I think there's a really good chance that Juve can do it, but I think they really can't let up any goals at the J Stadium, so it's going to be definitely a grinded out result, but I really do think Juve's got a better shot than they did 2 years ago in the final.
Juve has scored 14 goals in the Champions League as we head to the quarterfinals. They have only conceded 2. I just don't think that they have enough right now as it is. Barcelona is just a different beast. I think it's a very tough matchup. When you look at the top 4 clubs, it is very likely that they all are going to be seeing each other as we approach this next stage of the competition. But we move on to the next one. That is Real Madrid taking on Bayern Munich, the heavyweight of the German Bundesliga, taking on the current leaders in La Liga. And Martino, I think Real Madrid, it's a very easy story to kind of look at them. They've been sensational everywhere they've played this year. They've gotten miraculous plays from Sergio Ramos at every twist and turn. But I think now the question kind of comes to, they're the only club advancing to the next stage of this competition who has still not had a clean sheet yet. Is the goaltending going to be the crux of them against Bayern Munich?
I think it might have to be. I think this is the best team, Bayern, playing so far from the beginning of the group stage to the elimination rounds. That's probably played the best out of anybody. You could say Barca had a great comeback and all, but 4-0 loss is a 4-0 loss. I had Bayern winning this. I think that it's difficult. We say it all the time how difficult it is to go back-to-back just to win this competition, let alone go back-to-back finals. I think Bayern is their match, and I think Bayern's going to eventually beat them out here. I don't see how they can go into Munich and beat them there. I think Bayern's going to play a much better game at the Bernabeu than Madrid would back in Munich.
Look, this is as hard as it gets. For them to be matched up here, I think that really is going to be so difficult. But to me, I've just had this feeling in my gut about Real Madrid this season where I just think they're just playing and they almost have this invincible comeback factor about them this season. You could credit it to the management, you could credit it to the leadership on that team, but I just think right now they're playing with this undeniable edge where they're able to come back time and time again. I do think Real Madrid will power past Bayern Munich, but that is definitely going to be one to keep your eye on. And we advance now to the next one. Atletico Madrid taking on Leicester City. Leicester City, of course, the wonder kids of this competition. SPI says that they have less than a 1% chance of reaching the Champions League final. Now, Martino, we kind of know Leicester City, they kind of have done pretty well with overcoming the odds. But, less than a 1% of reaching the final. Atletico Madrid is one of the top clubs. They've been in the final of this competition 2 of the last 3 seasons. Are they just going to be too much for Leicester?
I think it's so unfair to say 1%. That Leicester has a 1% chance of advancing. This team has always defied the odds. Last season, what was it, 5,000-1?
5,000-1.
Just to even win the league, and they did that, and no one had them even getting into the quarterfinals of this. Even out of the group stage, no one had them coming out of that. But they did that, and I think they really do have a shot. Atletico is not as sharp as they've been these past 3 seasons. You could argue this is probably the lesser of those 3 teams that have made it this far into the Champions League. So I think Leicester has a real shot here. I wouldn't be shocked if it went either way. But you know what? I'm going to take Leicester here because what the hell? They've defied the odds before, and I think it could definitely happen again.
You're taking all the words from me, but I'm going with Leicester here as well. You don't pick against Leicester City. If there's anything we learned last season, it's when you put odds like that against them, don't pick against them because you're not going to come up doing very well. But I also look at them, and they have actually played very well in this competition. They have not conceded a goal in 5 of their 8 matches before the quarterfinals. You can say what you will about them in the Premier League, and their performance certainly has been good, but it seems like they have really been reinvigorated a little bit. They've won their last 3 Premier League matches. They overcome a first leg loss, and they come back. They advance to the quarterfinals. And like you've said, Martina, very well, Atletico is good this year. You never want to not go into a match ready for them. But this is not the same club that we've been used to seeing who've reached the finals. So I do think Leicester City just has that magic left, just a little bit, enough to get past the quarterfinals. Then, of course, the last one, we have Monaco taking on Dortmund. Monaco probably pulling off the biggest upset in the last phase of the competition, beating Manchester City. Now I think we kind of look at them, and obviously Dortmund's been very good in this competition as well. Mario Götze will not be playing in the quarterfinals. His season is done for them. But I'll ask you, Martino, can Monaco continue to use the momentum they built to get past Dortmund, or is Dortmund just a different breed for a club, a Ligue 1 club like Monaco?
I think this is actually the most interesting matchup out of all of them because I don't think anyone gives either of these clubs a shot to win the whole tournament, but they definitely can give teams a run for their money. You got to love Dortmund with Christian Pulisic, the American, getting that chip in and advancing Dortmund in the next round. It's just something awesome to see over back here at home. And Monaco, too. You usually thought they were just going to be the team that spent tons of money when they got Falcao and James Rodriguez, but now it's turned into this young team who just has nothing to lose, and I think that's something scary to play against. Like, same thing with Leicester. They have nothing to lose. You don't want to play them. Buffon said that. So I think 2 teams like this that have nothing to lose and they just playing for fun, it seems, I think it's going to be a good matchup, but I think I'm going to take Dortmund because of their pedigree. They've been there. They've had players that have been there and had success and gone to the final like they did a few years ago against Bayern. So I'm going to take Dortmund in this one.
I have Dortmund as well. I mean, look, I've kind of knocked Ligue 1 and many of the clubs from Ligue 1 many times, but you have to give Monaco a lot of credit to do what they've done to reach this stage of the competition. I don't think anyone really gave them that big of a chance over Manchester City, but they got it done. But I still think Dortmund, a Bundesliga club, it's just very big drop-off between the French competition and the German competition. Now we move to our next section, and we move to Italian Serie A. Manchester City, though, is where we start. And, of course, not an Italian club, but they have deep pockets, and they want to use that money that they have to perhaps pry one of Italy's youngest stars, that is Gianluigi Donnarumma of AC Milan, one of the youngest, most sensational players in Italy right now. Now, Martino, you're very close to the AC Milan club. You follow it as closely as anybody. Apparently, Manchester City wants to make a $150 million offer for Donnarumma. Now, obviously, the club is not in the best position right now. There's a lot of just uncertainty about where the club is going. Are they going to be sold? What's happening with that? And obviously, his contract will end next summer. We know Manchester City has all the money in the world to spend. They haven't gotten great production from the goalies this season. Are they going to be able to pry him away?
I don't see it. I think that what I wrote in the article we had up on Soccer Showdown, the site, check it out.
We will throw that in the description.
Yes, I have to do that. But I talked about how Buffon, back when Juve got relegated to Serie B during the Calciopoli scandal, how the best goalie ever got relegated to a second division, but yet he stuck with his team. And it took him years to get back to that point where Juve is probably going to win their 6th consecutive title in a row. Worth the wait, right? Same thing with Patience and Franco Baresi back in the 80s when Milan went back to Serie B for match fixing as well. And he waits a couple of years, and look, they're the best team of all time. They win back-to-back European Cups, plays with amazing players. He should be patient here. I think he should stay with Milan. After, we're going to be talking about this in a second, how Italy is going to be able to have 4 clubs going to the Champions League now, starting the 2018-2019 season, I believe. So when you have 4 spots now that are guaranteed to get into the group stage, what's the one thing that's prying him away? They say the uncertainty of the ownership. It's Champions League football with Manchester City. But if Milan's improving this much, and say they get some money and transfer money to bring in more players, it's looking like they can get the top 4, no problem. They're going to be able to go in the Champions League and compete for cups and titles like that. So I think he has to be patient. He's just 18. He has his whole career to win a bunch of trophies. I think making a move right now, this young, at his age, I don't think it's in his best interest to do that, even with the uncertainty of ownership.
You kind of set me up back there, so let's go right into it. Italy, of course, will have 4 Champions League spots in the 2018-19 UEFA Champions League competition. Now, obviously, we kind of have looked, and it seems like Serie A has been missing a little bit of depth in this competition the last few seasons. Now they have 4 spots guaranteed. What does it mean?
I think it's huge because we talk about all the time on how Italian clubs really don't have enough money to buy new players or keep players and make money because they don't have their own stadiums. Champions League guarantees that they get money if they were to advance to the next round. And it's a ton of money, and we've seen it cripples clubs like Milan or Inter because they don't have that income that they're so used to playing in the Champions League. With 4 guaranteed spots, it gets them back in that situation because clubs like Milan and Inter, they definitely have the talent moving forward to get in there. And we've seen them struggle in the knockout stage prior to getting into the group. No club besides Milan a few years ago when they were last in the competition was able to advance. Roma and Napoli have been struggling to just get into the competition, let alone advancing out of the group stage. So I think it's big, and I think it's just better for the Champions League too to get teams back like Inter in it instead of watching teams like FC Basel. No disrespect to them, but I mean it's a big competition. It's all about money. It's about ratings, and when you have clubs like that can get back into the competition with the top players that they have too, I think it's important for Italy and it's important for the Champions League as well.
I think you hit the nail on the head. I would much rather see someone from Serie A in there than some little name club from some league that no one's ever even heard of. It all comes down to interest, and it's going to make the UEFA Champions League much more interesting as we move forward. But Major League Soccer is also becoming much more interesting by the day. Bastian Schweinsteiger, one of the European legends, will be taking his talents to the Chicago Fire. And Martinez, this is kind of becoming a trend now where European legends at the end of their career, they're kind of moving over to MLS and testing out the waters there. But this move in particular, and then we'll kind of go to the other ones, what does this one mean to you?
I think it's important because it's not LA or New York. This is Chicago. I mean, Kaká went to Orlando. That's kind of a big move, and Drogba was out in Canada. But to go to a big market like Chicago where really, they're kind of irrelevant in the MLS phase, and to get one of the best German midfielders ever, let alone top European midfielders, only 32. Yeah, it might just be a one-year deal, but it's about gauging interest of the youth. I mean, USA has Christian Pulisic. He's playing over in Germany, so it's a little bit different. They need someone right here in their backyard, and hopefully Schweinsteiger can inspire younger kids to go out and play the sport, just like we're hoping Kaká, Pirlo, David Villa, and guys like that over here in New York are gauging interest for the younger kids too. And I think that's important. Regardless if they're at the end of their career or not, it's just someone to inspire them and to say, hey, I want to be as good as that guy one day, even though I might not play in Europe. It's just playing the sport professionally and one day in the MLS. So I think it's important, and I mean, depending on whatever your take is, retirement league, yes or no, I think it's just important to just have players like that want to come over here, quality or past prime. So I think it's great.
Oh, I want to go up to that next point. Sir Alex Ferguson just said that the league is definitely improving. You mentioned the retirement, the home place. That's been a knock on it. But obviously now we kind of look. Pirlo has shown a commitment to the league. David Villa has shown a commitment. Kaká, Drogba has gone to Montreal. Steven Gerrard showed a commitment to the league. Is that a fair knock, or is it just means so much more that all these big name players and are continuing now with Bastian Schweinsteiger are continuing to come over?
I mean, you could even make the argument that Sebastian Giovinco came over in his 20s. So, I mean, I don't think it really makes that much of a difference. He's the best player in the league by far, and he's shown it these past couple seasons. So that's a guy that was dubbed the next Del Piero. I know, obviously, he didn't even live up to half the hype. But still, it's someone like that much talent came over to the league over here, made a commitment to it, and takes it very seriously, obviously. So, I mean, even David Villa, there's a lot of passion in the clubs this year. I mean, Atlanta United, we've seen it. They've just started a couple games into their club's history, and they're selling out games, and they have thousands of people showing up. So, obviously, Fergie's right when he's saying the MLS is improving, and that's all you can hope. I think the growth rate of ratings and fan interest is just going to keep on going up. Every single year there's competitions because you see it going up in World Cup years. ESPN has the games, so everyone's watching the games. They're interested in those players, so they're growing more familiar with players there, and they're going to be more familiar with the players that are in the league right now as well.
we will move to our final segment on today's show, and that is, of course, the 2017 International Champions Cup. It is as star-studded as you can get when you look at the number of big-name clubs. Our little graphic up on the screen will kind of show you all the clubs who are participating in it, but we will have a Manchester Derby in the United States, as well as El Classico in the United States. You look at all these big-name clubs, Martino, obviously, who have invested in the United States, have invested in this competition year after year. What do you think it says about the continued growth of soccer within the United States?
I think it shows that they're really hitting home on the youth, and I was just talking about it just before. The MLS ratings from the 2015 to 2016 season were up 25% from the year before. And that's in a non-World Cup year, like I was saying, when you see a ton of people all the time over here. Because it's interesting that you go out to a bar or a restaurant when the games are being played, there's so many people that are coming out of the woodworks being fans of the sport. And having something like this is great, especially going down to Miami. It's a beautiful place during the summertime, beautiful weather, and they have two of the biggest clubs in the world facing off against each other. Doesn't matter if it's a friendly or not. When those two go against each other, it's always going to be a battle. So I think it's huge to have that over here. And it's not just over here. They're going abroad in China and areas like that. But when you sell out in the big house like they did last year, I think it was Madrid and United, that's all the way in Michigan. Think about what you're going to do in places like Miami or New York or Harrison, New Jersey, or Foxborough, Massachusetts. I think it's huge, even though they're just friendlies. I think it's great for the league. I think it's great for the sport. And it's only going to continue to grow from here on out.
That is going to do it for this episode of Soccer Showdown. Joe Archino here, as always, with Martino Puccio. You can catch us at soccershowdown.net. But until the next time, everyone, Jersey Joe and Martino signing off.